Some OC, until recently, worked as an investigator for a major auto insurance company. Worked in office 100% of the time, no going out in the field. We document everything said on a call, like our lives depend on it. My job is to learn more about what happens in accidents, if there is a special issue related to the contract, time, life if you made your payment and got into a collision on the same day. Possible fraud indicator, or maybe just bad luck. Have had tons of uninteresting, paranormal stories from callers. I got into the accident because my car is cursed. My car has been replaced with an identical car by the CIA, but this one really sticks out to me because of the way the company handled it. New file to me. Single vehicle, comprehensive claim, vandalism, occurring within 55 days of policy adjustment. Basically, just need to learn whether these damages that are being claimed occurred before subject modified his policy for a better deal on the damages, etc. Easy peasy. Just need a police report or timestamp photos of damages. PH reports scratch marks all over the car, mostly on roof. Weird, but think nothing of it. Office pace moves at lightning speed. If you stop to think, you fall behind, and my type A ass is going to hit every KPI like my life depends on it. Call PH for recorded interview. He picks up right away. Good sign. Older white guy. We will call him Jim. Go over the reason for my call. He is cooperative and receptive, but I can tell he is nervous as fuck. This is not unusual. RI goes normally. He says that someone scratched the shit out of his car. States he called law enforcement out to the scene and that they are going to provide him with a police report. Wrap up RI. Do my closing statement. Is there anything else you want me to know about what's happened in the incident that my questions did not directly address? A pause. No. I know that kind of long pause. Something else is going on here, but it's not relevant to coverage, so I don't probe. Wrap up the RI. No further questions. Tell Jim I stopped recording the interview. I hear him tense up a bit. That wasn't the whole story, Anon. Fucking shit. You've got to believe me. I didn't want to say this on the interview because they would hike up my rates. Duh. But it's not teenagers. It's something out there at night. I've seen them my whole life. They followed me all the way out from the West Coast. Lost state is West Virginia. This took place in a town so small I can't see his house on Street View. They killed my dog, and they've been all over my house. They're trying to get in. They can't get in if you lock the door though. He's talking really quickly. I document PH reports someone has been trying to break into his house. I ask him if he told the police about this. He says he did. Our calls are monitored for quality, so I stay polite and do what I can to wrap up the call. Do you believe me, Anon? Tell him sure thing, man. Sorry to hear about that. Share file with my team. Whenever anything funny pops up, we stick it in our group chat. Save the claim number for later review. My work here is done. We just need pictures and the PR to wrap investigation. Set an anchor to call him back in 3 days for the documents. Don't think about this until later that week because I'm buried in harder, more important work. Time to call Jim back. Check the file notes. Jim called in and a teammate picked up. IBC from PH. PH advised further damage to auto. Auto non-drivable. PH advised contacted PD. Set up a sister file for additional damages. Unable to set tow as PH does not have dollars or body shop nearby. PHADV needs coverage investigation expedited. Just needs to be able to leave. Check file documents. PR is virtually empty. Just has time/date that police were contacted. Body text is along the lines of complainant reports vandalism of vehicle and home. OFFR Doherty dispatched to scene. BWC activated. VER damaged a vehicle and residence. Check photos. I wish I had sent these photos to myself somehow in retrospect. We dealt with a lot of personal info in office, so all communications external to the company were monitored, and we can't even have our phones at our desks where we work, so I could not snap any pictures. If I tried, I'd have to talk to management, and again, type A, just focused on promotion. Shame. Photos are pretty out there. Just like Jim said, damage all over his car. Some of the scratches go into the actual car body, so someone was putting effort into them, not just using a key. OSIU thinks that this means Jim took a tool to his own car, but he does not stand to gain anything by doing so it's not a fraud indicator, unless he's trying to total out the vehicle, and he is desperate to have it fixed. Jim sent tons of photos, which isn't unusual for older customers. We've got photos of scratches on his windows and doors, and a bunch of pictures that just look like the woods surrounding his house. Photos take a fucking year to open on our computers. If I open one up, and it's just trees, I close it immediately. Just try to find pictures of his car. Rename all photos to Rear QP Damage 1, Rear QP Damage 2, Woods 1, Woods 2, Woods 3, etc. I submit my recommendation for coverage to RLC. It gets approved by my soup and sent to legal. 3 days pass. No longer thinking of Jim. Just thinking about the 100 other files I have to work where people are injured, /stranded, etc. Recommendation returned. Coverage approved. Congrats, Jim. Open file. More calls from Jim. PH calling in to inquire status of coverage review. ADV in progress. It's your lucky day, Jim. We can fix your car. Calling back. Straight to voicemail message. Leave a voicemail message. Sent email advising of the same. Forget about Jim until next follow-up. Straight to voicemail message. Leave a voicemail message. No inbound calls from Jim in the notes. Weird, because he was so urgent about finishing everything, but it would not be the first time a customer has just lost interest. A week passes by. Time for the next follow-up. Sent Jim an LOI letter and let him know to call me whenever he wants his car fixed. Forget about Jim again. Take inbound call from local PD unit in Jim's town. They provide me with his policy number and inquire what he said about the incident. Pause. This is pretty unusual. Usually only happens for a hit and run. Get permission from Soup to advise Jim's facts of the incident. Choose to omit the part where he talks about evil little gremlins trying to eat his skin because I'm a professional and just interested in getting back to my real work. Still, this is setting off alarm bells. Police ask, is that all he had to say? Well, can't hurt to report the whole truth. I advise that the PH reports a fear of nighttime intruders and that they killed his dog. PD ask if he sent in any photos to the file and demand that we share them. Ask why. This is very non-standard. PD advise that this is now a missing persons investigation. They request supervisor contact info. Provide it. I am now interested in this file and check back in on it regularly. Figure Jim is probably on drugs. 2 type A for cryptid/ET bullshit. Check file notes. Only notes are from my supervisor now. IBC from PD. NFC with PH. Shared photos with PD after legal approval. Catch up with my soup about it. He says we've done what we can to help. It's in law enforcement's hands now. Check file a month later. Still no payments issued out to Jim or contact from him. Only notes in file are from a regional legal associate, which is up the ladder from me. Whack. File notes are long, and I'm having a hard time parsing all of them because they use acronyms that I don't know. Don't take it out with my soup because I can't afford to bother him with month-old files when there are people who need our help immediately, 24/7. Okay, this is where it gets really weird. Everything so far is normal. I've had other calls like this or it's just someone going nuts. This is why this file is different. Go to check file on break. Interested in the pics Jim sent in. Want to see what the local PD is so eager to have. The photos for the vehicle damage are still in the file, but the pics that I relabeled Woods 1, Woods 2, Woods 3, etc. are all gone. Sit up straighter in my office chair. Pics are never deleted from files unless they are nudes that a customer sent in by mistake, and even for those, you have to get RLC approval to delete for nudity/irrelevance to claim. I can't stress enough that photos are almost never removed. Our files are full of memes and unrelated text conversations because the insureds fat finger their phones when trying to share evidence, but Woods 1 to 10 are gone. Check notes for RLC notation. Nothing. We have gone off procedure for this for some reason. My future CEO spider sense is tingling. Someone did something against code of conduct here. And no further contact from Jim. Don't raise the issue with my supervisor, because I can't afford to look like I'm obsessed with the little gray man file. Have gotten flack for getting fixated on files before. Non-supernatural. Close file and get back to work. End of business. Go home for weekend. Sincerely spooked. Not at whatever's happened to Jim, but because my precious evidence has been deleted from my perfect file. Write down the file number and Jim's policy number on sticky note so that when I'm promoted down the line, I can access it from the archive and see just what went on. Now comes the part I really hate. Monday. First break rolls around. Look up Jim's file. No matching claim number found. What? Claims are never deleted for any reason. Duplicate files are closed down but remain accessible. This never happens. I can see other claims on Jim's policy, just not this one. Again, I just have to stress how this never happens. I have worked files that have been connected to ongoing criminal investigations for murder, domestic violence, other sensitive subjects. They do not just go missing. They are our work product. They are everything to us. Contact supervisor. Advised I was looking for the RLC submission template I'd used for the CC55 on Jim's file while working a similar case and could not find the file anywhere. He asked whether I was putting in the right claim number. Show him that I have Jim's policy number and can pull other files from his policy history, but not the most recent one. Soup advised that Regional Legal has been handling that one for a while, and that he had not followed up on it since passing it up the ladder. Soup advised he would check with management and see if he could find out where the file went. Never comes back up in my time working there. I am not with this company at this time, or I would try to find out more to share with you guys or post my badge for proof. Moved away from where I used to work and doing more higher ed. The local PD that were calling me did not act like any other cops I'd ever talked to, and they sure had Regional Legal in the file really fast. This has all been on my mind with the disclosure stuff, of course. Stay safe and professional out there. No clue what was bothering him, and I prefer not to speculate. I was not an auto damage expert, so I could not tell the difference between someone backing into a fixed object or striking a car with a baseball bat. What I can say is that they were ugly deep scratches all over the car and on the windows of his house, 2 stories. Scratches on the door, but no sign of forced entry. He had a long driveway with no nearby neighbors and no listed family members to contact. I checked prior claims on his policy and found no unusual activity, just your standard struck parked vehicle and the like. No prior reports of vandalism on his vehicle. He was a long-term policyholder, so it's a shame we lost his business. What really bothers me is that the claim was removed by someone. I worked hard on that. Stuff moves so fast that we were encouraged to only spend time on active matters. I got my productivity points for finishing the investigation, and if Jim went missing, well, that would be a concern for local police. We would only consider a wellness check for him if he were still part of an active matter, or if someone else was making a claim against Jim's policy and needed their car taken care of. By all accounts, it sounds like poor Jim was taken out by a cryptid, and the feds are covering it all up. And, a really long shot I know, but when you saw those pictures of the woods, did any of them strike your eye? Something that looked out of place, but you might not have paid it much attention since you were busy dealing with the case. Honestly, I think stuff like that happens all the time. It's just when others get involved that we hear about it. Had this been someone else handling Jim's insurance, they might not have cared at all. They just looked like landscape shots of the woods taken from his house. If the car was not in the picture, I clicked off of it and relabeled the photo. Important to note that I was often on the phone with a separate customer while loading up and relabeling these pictures. I typically had around 30 inbound calls a day at that time. What makes you think cryptid? Would one have followed him all the way from the West Coast? I'll be the first to admit, I pretty much filtered out everything that he was saying to me. I was way more focused on the information I was specifically looking for as part of my job instead of everything he was providing to me, but that detail stuck out. I only noticed this case because of the file handling on our end. We get bizarre reports all the time, but they were never escalated beyond my capacity to handle, and for what I thought was basically no reason. I guess law enforcement did not want to deal with it at the adjuster level, maybe because I was hesitant to share the evidence we had collected. Police can request interviews, for example, to assist in ongoing criminal investigations. If someone advises to their insurance company that they struck a car and left the scene of the accident, that can come into play in criminal procedure or a missing persons case. I think Anon is very lucky that he did not see the subject of those woods photographs. Sharing this story because it happened very recently, and I thought it would be perfect for X. For some background info, my dad's whole side of the family is from far upstate New York, like the deep North Country, Ogdensburg and Lisbon to be exact. Me and my family go there for probably a month every summer for vacation and to visit family, like my 2 sets of grandparents. Me and my dad just got back a few days ago from hunting on my grandpa's 190 acres he has in Lisbon. We were there for about a week. Enough bullshit, I will start. Be me. 15 years old. Went upstate to stay with my dad, to stay with Vietnam vet grandpa and my step-grandpa, and hunt on his land he had since the early 90s. We wake up every day at 4:30, and we get to our land by 5:30. We get there. Pitch fucking black. Stars are awesome. Walk for about 10 minutes to tree stand, and then sit there until it gets light at around 6:30 to 7. This continues for 5 days. We do evening hunts too. I kill 3 bucks. Found 2. I'll get to the other one. Idiots at DEC make it so you can only kill bucks during muzzleloader. Me and my dad are walking to stand 4th morning. Complete darkness. No light pollution for miles. As we're walking, about 5 minutes in, I hear someone calling for help. Me and dad fucking freeze in tracks. My dad is the toughest man I will ever know. Firefighter of 16 years now. Grew up farming, and he has seen a solid 2,000 or so dead people throughout the years. Has borderline night blindness. All we brought with us are radios for communication with grandpa and uncle hunting with us. Sounds like a person is close. Probably 100 feet in direction of where we need to head to get to tree stand. Calls for help again. The voice is kinda high-pitched. Sounds googly and bug-like. Pretty stupid analyzation, but imagine if those bugs from Resident Evil 4 could create speech, and their throats were full of jelly. Only thing I can relate it to. My dad radios grandpa and uncle on channel. Pick related. its cabin on our land. Anyhow, both say no when my dad asks them if they accidentally went to our tree stand, thinking no one was going there. Also say no to hearing anyone. We're hunting on 200 acres, so we are pretty spread apart. Dad wants to go check it out. I say fuck no. Tell him to stop and think about who the fuck could be in the heart of our 200 acres already, in buttfuck nowhere and why, in 18 degrees, snowing, and at 5:40 in the morning. I can feel my heart beat in my fucking hands and head now, adrenaline pumping. Me and Dad both kinda shipwrecks. We radio, yell whispering, telling Grandpa and Uncle to get the fuck back to the cabin. We still hear it, calling for help. The voices getting deeper and more gurgly with each call. We start quietly walking back. Not even a minute in, fucking sounds like a moose is running through forest. Both shipwrecks and hightail it to cabin, holding onto each other's jackets as to not get separated. We stop, and all is silent. I fire off muzzleloader into ground, and no sound until a few seconds later. It sounds like something is screaming, like a hog. That fucking gurgly sound, like a bug or TV static. I have tears in my eyes at this point. We make it back to cabin and get in truck. My dad just tells Grandpa and Uncle, who are confused as fuck, that we need to leave immediately. We explain in car, and Uncle just says it must have been a hurt cow from one of the bordering farms or a moose. No way in hell it was an animal any of us have heard of. Moose are pretty rare to see up here. We get back to my grandpa's house in town. I tell my step-grandma what happened, and she goes dead quiet, gets super pale. She grew up on a rural farm here, born in 1945. She just tells us not to go back. We don't go back for the evening hunt, or next morning hunt. Weather was kinda shitty anyway. We go for evening hunt next day, and just sit in a stand we have in a big 20-acre field. Nothing, until it's almost dark. Pick on last post is a pick my dad took right before I shoot that spike horn in the evening hunt. He brought his phone. Spike horn comes out from super thick cedar forest behind us. I shoot it. It immediately falls over, gets back up, and limp runs into forest. Fuck, I shot it in the shoulder. Leaves from tree branch, blurring scope view. A shoulder shot on a deer is never a good thing. Deer are tough, and will most likely be pretty unharmed by a shoulder shot if you hit it in the muscle or bone. I'm kinda bummed. We wait for Grandpa and Uncle to come out from the area of forest they were hunting in to go looking for deer. We have to use flashlights since it is pretty dark out now. Follow small blood trail. I jump it while it's laying down about 20 feet away. We're in the thickest area of our land. I'm on my fucking hands and knees. The trees are so thick. Don't find it after that. After an hour, we give up and decide to look again tomorrow afternoon when it's bright out. Skip to afternoon. Back in the woods looking. 10 minutes, and I find a blood trail where I saw deer last night. When I saw the deer, it jumped up and limped off in other direction. The blood trail is way thicker than it should be. I yell to everyone, and we start following it. I find part of an intestine. What? Eventually, we find it. Well, part of it. It's the lower half of the buck. Like, ribs area down. Fucking torn to bits. Wasn't coyotes. Guts and stomach torn open, and placed about 5 feet away from the body. Top half of deer is completely missing. Huge claw marks all over. We leave it there, cause nothing is salvageable, and decide to call it a trip. We're all thoroughly freaked out. Bring up thing from morning hunt. Shit pants.exe. Nothing happened after that. Hope y'all enjoyed. Pick is one of the bucks I got. Seems mundane, but I think about this a lot. I was standing on a bus about 3 years ago, and a guy got on using crutches. No one stood up to offer him a seat, which I thought was weird, but he didn't seem to notice. He was in a cast up to his knee on his right leg. He moved right over to me and just struck up a conversation. Seemed totally normal and friendly. I asked him if he'd been in an accident. He said it was my own fault, really, and the crutches aren't that bad. I say, "Oh, that's good. You seem pretty comfortable with them." He says, "Yeah, they just take a bit of getting used to. It's just about how you balance yourself." He starts moving side to side a little, I guess to show me he was stable. Then he continues giving me tips around them. Make sure you leave them beside your bed, and that no one moves them. Nothing worse than getting up to piss in the middle of the night and having to crawl or hop. And the cast gets itchy, so you want to get something that can reach down there. You can get super thin back scratchers online. I'm smiling and nodding through all of this. Listen to him giving me tips. Make sure you keep snacks and drinks and stuff next to your bed or chair. It's not worth getting up all the time, so you might get hungry or dehydrated. Stuff like this for like 10 minutes. I remember thinking he was talking to me as if I was in crutches too, but I guess he probably just wanted to chat. Eventually, he gets off and says his goodbyes. Seems normal enough, but you can guess where this is going. About a month later, I was in my backyard, carrying a crate of beer into the house, in the dark, and I slipped and fell down the stairs. Broke my right ankle, cast up to my knee. I didn't remember this conversation until my mom called me in the hospital to see how I was doing, and I said, "Well, it was my own fault, really." Suddenly, I remember the whole thing. The way the guy was talking to me, as if I needed his advice, and he had the cast in the same place. Then I started thinking about how no one even acknowledged him when he got on or offered him a seat. Anyway, I followed his advice. Before I even got home, I bought a back scratcher online. Started piling up water and snacks where I would need them. The only thing I forgot was that my mom visited and stayed the night. Without thinking, she moved my crutches off my bedroom floor to the hallway while I was asleep, and I had to hop out to them in the middle of the night to piss. My friends think I'm nuts, and it was just a coincidence. But I started to think of the guy as a phantom or something. Maybe a warning from the future. Writing this one out again. Lost a few hours in Utah. Be me, 8th grade. Constant mild tinnitus. Go on a boys' backpacking and camping trip to Uinta Range. 10 campers, 2 trip guides. Shit so cash. Halfway through the trip, we take a day hike around Pick Related, 4 Lakes Basin. We stop in a nice high area for a brief respite. Tell guides I'm going to go to the bathroom. Take the TP and scramble up a small ridge out of sight with a gorgeous view of the basin. Do my business. Notice my ears are ringing much louder and at a lower frequency than usual. E to ooh. That wasn't fucking helpful. Look up and think the sun is doing this. Turn around and head back to the group. One of the guides sees me walking down the ridge. He shouts for me and waves me down. He runs up to me, looks frantic and on the verge of tears. He asks me where I've been. I point over to the ridge and say poopin'. When I look back, the sun has moved. We walk back down to the campsite. All the other kids look spooked. The other guide looks like he had been crying and gives me a candy bar and some water. He talks to the group and then me away from the others. Asks me where I was, what happened, etc. He still looks rattled. I tell him I was pooping over a ridge. Unsatisfied, he makes me walk him through exactly what happened. We walk back to the ridge. I take him to where I went exactly. He tells me they looked there and picked up my TP roll. He tells me they were about to call mountain rescue. I was too young to understand why they were being so serious with me. I thought I was in trouble and started to cry. We head back. The rest of the camping trip went as planned, but the guards were very wary of me.